Welcome, another episode, Dr. James Beckett Sports Card Insights here with Jacob Noble. We're going to talk about getting cards autographed, and it's not a simple matter. So Jacob and I will bat that around. Jacob was on a while back hearing about his job as a criminal defense attorney, but we're just going to talk about his avocation, his passion that he's maintained for since he was a kid, I guess, of collecting autographs and how that relates to Sports Card Insight. So thanks, Jacob. But first, thanks to the sponsors, Topps Panini Upper Deck, Burbank Sports Cards, Heritage Auctions, Huggins Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, COMC.com, as well as Beckett Media, including Beckett Grading and Beckett Authentication. So Beckett Grading would be very interested in this. COMC also has a lot of autograph cards. Heritage and Huggins Scott both sell a lot of autograph cards, and Topps Panini and Upper Deck embed autographs into their products. So it pretty much touches, and obviously they're sold in the card shop. So this is a topic I hope will be of interest. Jacob, you're a passionate autograph collector, and it's now come to your attention that not everybody thinks cards should be autographed. So welcome to the show, and give your perspective, and let's bat it around for a few minutes.
Sure. I didn't know that was an issue until I went to a card show in Chantilly, and I think I sent this to you in my email.
Yeah.
I had a Brooks Robinson rookie card, and I was waiting in line, and the guy in back of me started to give me some dirty looks, and he asked me if I was going to get that autograph, and I said, absolutely. And he just, he was incredulous as to what was going on. He couldn't believe that I'd get the rookie card. He said, how could you get that signed? And I said, well, number one, because I paid for it, and two, I like to collect rookie cards and get them signed. He actually offered me $200 right on the spot just for the card, and I told him no. And so I ended up getting the Brooks Robinson card signed, and I ran into actually an employee from Beckett, and I asked him what his take was on it. And I remember his name. I don't know if you want me to say it or not. He's a good guy. I have nothing negative to say about him. He's one of your card. He assists with the card grading.
Okay, sure.
His name is Eugene DeMaio.
Okay.
And I asked him what he thought, and he said, well, if you had a 1952 Mickey Mantle rookie card, which we know is not the real rookie card, but that's a whole other
yeah.
Would you rather have the card or the card signed? And I said, the card signed. And he looked at me and said, there you go. And I think to some extent, he would rather have that too. Now I know some people might liken it to, would you get this Mona Lisa wore around that you have her sign the actual Mona Lisa? but my response to that is, number one, this isn't the Mona Lisa. This is a baseball card. Thousands are made.
Yeah.
And number two, the answer is probably yes, I would want her to sign it because it's a picture of her. Going back to the question, I like to get rookie cards signed. I'm a rookie cards or number, the serial number cards. And I started a little late in life, still kicking myself when I was young. I used to get baseballs. For the last couple of years, I got bobbleheads, but my wife's putting a kibosh on that because
that takes up a lot of room.
Oh yeah, she let me know it too. But I like to get rookie cards signed, number cards signed, and kind of special cards signed. But yes, there is this animosity. It wasn't just this individual. Another lawyer, a colleague of mine, when I told him I had a Hank Aaron card, his rookie that I was getting signed, and he couldn't believe it either. But we did reach a happy medium or a point of agreement, and this is what you'd find interesting. If it was a graded 9 or 10 or even an 8 card, the idea of having it signed would offend just about every card collector.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at a card that's a 6 or below, maybe even a 7, the idea of having it autographed is not so offensive because at that point, the grade, the true worth of the card is only so much because the grade is so low. So he was telling me, well, if you're going to get a Hank Aaron that's graded at a 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 is fine. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Well, Jacob, you're a defense attorney, so you're used to being on the defensive, I guess. But there's not a right or wrong answer here. People are criticizing you. The proof is in sometimes in the auction results. I mean, if you have side by side two Hank Aaron or Brooks Robinson rookie cards, and they're in the same condition, and one has an autograph and one doesn't, like I said, especially in the lower grades, I would expect to see that the autograph increases the value of the card in the lower grades. In the higher grades, not so much, but even that is evolving as we speak. In fact, more of the players are starting to charge a premium for their rookie cards to be signed. So
Joe Montana.
Montana, Bobby Orr, I think, is doing that in hockey, and I don't know that it's a double, 100% premium, but it's a significant premium for signing their rookie card. So, and I've noticed in some of the auction results, there's more and more interest. I mean, if you had a 52 Topps Mantle that was a 2, and it was autographed, and it's still a 2 with a great autograph on it, I would expect that would sell for more money. And 8, 9, 10, I agree, not necessarily, because there are purists that want that. But the nice thing about the industry, about the hobby, is that those are not hard and fast rules. They might be guidelines, but they're only guidelines for how you might optimize or resell. If it's for your own personal collection, you can do whatever you want to do. And
as cards work. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I've mentioned this in the podcast. One of my favorite cards is a Roberto Clemente rookie card. Well, the card is probably a 5, so it's not perfectly centered. It's not perfect corners, but it's a very nice card, and it's personally autographed by Roberto Clemente. So to me, that's better than having an unautographed version. And so I'm probably agreeing with you largely.
Right.
But the other side of it is, let's get away from the vintage for now. Are you getting the same grief for some of your pre-rookie cards and some of the minor league cards
yes.
that you've gotten autographed back in the day and even now? I mean, is there still that criticism that you have these? Because some of those guys that you may have gotten in the Florida State League have gone on to, if not greatness, some notoriety, and you've got a very early card that was personally autographed back in the day. Is that not in some demand if you were to try to sell that?
I think it's easier now to justify getting the pre-rookie card signed now under this theory. If those cards weren't meant to be autographed, then why would Bowman and Topps have inserts with their autographs? So that's number one. Number two, it goes back to what you were saying with, and what the theme of this is, where it's the grapher versus the collector. I think a collector would think it was horrible what I was doing. But then again, the collector's passion is in the collecting. My passion is in the autograph, in the pursuit of the autograph. So for me, when I buy cards, sometimes I'll do the breaks and sometimes I'll do the hobby box, which is a whole show in its entirety as to whether you should do a break or just buy the hobby box. But I collect cards for the sole purpose of getting them autographed. There's a thrill that I get. I don't know how to anybody who gets autographs and who gets it because they enjoy their autographers who just do sell, so they would never understand it. It's for them, it's more just a paycheck. But for someone like me, who's a true collector, of the autograph, there's something about the thrill of calling the player over and having them actually come over and sign it.
Well, Jacob, okay, so let's, again, Sports Card Insights here. In our earlier episode that you and I discussed kind of your background and some of the hobby job opportunities, one thing, I don't think you want to necessarily do this, but it would sound like you could be an autograph authenticator. And that actually can be a grueling job, but there's a lot of variety in it. There's a lot of analysis and, checking out all the exemplars and all that stuff. And there's several excellent authentication companies. Obviously, Beckett Authentication is my one of choice, but I'm longtime friends with Jimmy Spence. And so to what extent would you have interest in that, or do you even feel necessary to get these cards that you've had personally autographed right in front of you, the necessity of slabbing them or stickering them to be authenticated? I mean, what is your thought on that?
Okay, I do find the signatures fascinating. Again, I've had, as I told you before, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I've had fingerprint cases where I don't need to find an expert, but sometimes you can definitely rule it out. And the same with handwriting, with the check.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, that's something that I'd be interested in. The other thing that I find interesting, and I'm surprised not many dealers or I don't know what the professionals, but again, MLB has the top 100 prospects every year. And I'm on Sports Collectors Network. I very rarely, if ever, see any signings with those players, and I'm just so shocked. I've seen a couple for Adley Rutschman. I've seen a couple for Adley Rutschman and a couple for Bobby Witt. But Wander Franco, who's like the uber prospect right now, he is probably
but he may be wrapped up in an exclusive. There's different. I'm wondering about that. I mean, the different. Topps has the full license, but Panini's doing a lot of stuff too, and they're trying to lock down. I just don't think the players at a certain point in their career have the ability to commercially sign. They can recreationally sign, at the ballpark, but
and that may be true for the top 50. But there's a guy, Bruce Gratterall. I have a hard time believing that despite the fact he was a top 100, he was locked down in some contract. And I say that because he didn't even have any cards.
If he doesn't have any cards, then what do you? Again, are you talking about just his autograph on a 3x5 or in a program, or do you need to have a card, a licensed card that'll be autographed in order to fully convey the value?
I meant I was thinking out loud. I didn't know that. That is something that would have to be thought of. A lot of people like to get baseball's autographed, but I'm not a fan of that either. I mean, I've had I'd like to focus, if I could, just primarily on cards.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I mean, you're right. There are some guys who are locked in exclusives. I'm wondering if every single one of them, or if every single top 30 prospect would make on every major league team, which is what? I mean, you're over 900, maybe 1,000 guys total. All of them are in exclusives. I mean,
again, but that's another thing. I met with another guy last month who's an agent for players. So, when our earlier episode, you talked about a very high stress criminal defense attorney job, where you have your own firm and all that stuff. And if you were going to do something different, what would it be? Well, it sounds to me like you could authenticate autographs, or you could figure out a way to analyze this situation and provide and be a source of autographs. Again, I don't know that you could get a license to produce cards, but you could maybe be almost like an agent on some limited basis for these top 100 or perfect game participants. And somebody's got to contact the players and sign them up and observe their. So your legal background could actually work in your favor, because I think there are some rights, but the industry's moved toward exclusive rights, which I'm more. I'd like it to be more like it was in the old days, but it seems like Topps wants to protect their investment in kind of having a monopoly on the baseball card, and they want autographs to be meaning the autographs that are certified and not aftermarket autographs.
Right.
But there is an opportunity there. Yeah.
Well, the other way that I look at it is because I'm a 42-year-old man without children, so it sometimes gets difficult to go to the ballpark or to get autographs because they naturally assume that you're a dealer and you're going to sell them.
Yeah.
But I have two responses to that. I mean, the first response is, let's just say I was a dealer. So what? You're a first-round pick. You just got $7 million. What's it to you if I make a couple hundred? I mean, how is that going to hurt you? And two, the other response is, if you're so worried about people taking your autograph and selling it, then sign as many as you can, because the law of supply and demand 101. If everybody has it, nobody's going to need it, and if nobody needs it, the price is going to be nothing. So, I mean, and again, as a collector, I don't collect with the intention of selling. I collect because I want it in my collection. It's almost like a form of art to me. It's art.
Okay. Well, again, that's working against the business aspects, because if you're going to be a collector, I mean, there's ways to be involved in the hobby. And collecting is the only one that you can't make money on, except eventually when you sell. You've either got to be a dealer or a promoter or a producer of some kind.
It is and it isn't. If a player is to charge, if a player says, okay, I'll sign as many as you want, but I'm charging $10 an autograph, I mean, again, the only way to make money would be on bulk. But the one thing that I've learned, been around longer than me, in just about every regard, is that there's always a way to make money off something. It might take a while, and it might take some tweaking, but in the end, you can always. There's just always a way that you can turn that into a profit.
Well, if it's well conceived, and there's a market niche. I mean, I've told my story. I mean, I felt like if I built the best mousetrap, then people would want it. And back in the day, that's kind of what happened. But you're talking about a perceived hole in the market. It might be something that would be interesting. It's just that they're again, in the old days, they were almost like two different hobbies. There were the autograph collectors, and they didn't care about the cards. And then there were the card collectors, and they didn't really care about the autographs. And so I was a little bit in between, because I did collect autographs. I mainly collected cards, and I mainly collected autographs on the cards. So I'm in your court, but it's a subset, it was more of a special interest item. And what your critics are saying with the Brooks Robinson and Hank Aaron is that it's a more limited market. Even if you could get slightly more for the card and it's more unique, you've got a smaller number of people that are interested in collecting card in that way. But I believe it's increasing as we speak. I think more and more people compared to 5 years ago or 10 years ago are interested in autograph cards or autograph rookie cards because of what the companies have done. So I hear you.
And again, it's somewhat related, but you're talking about Brooks Robinson and Hank Aaron. They're in a different category, too. And you know this. Yeah. they didn't make the money that today's baseball player is making. So their incentive for signing is a lot different than today's guy.
Right. Well, they're signing the check.
I'm sorry?
So much. We're out of time. I'm sorry, Jacob. Okay. I got to state at my time, but I just think this is, we may have to come back and revisit this at some point. But let's get this episode out and get some feedback from people, because I think you're making some excellent points about there shouldn't be a conflict. There should be a way that people can collect the way they want, and I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. So. Sorry, I'm out of time. Thanks, Jacob, for sharing your passion and your story. And we'll be back again, listeners, with another episode tomorrow. And again, thanks for your listening, and enjoy the hobby.